Um, how you doing?
I'm all right. I was just thinking that another name for the heat death of the universe is the Big Chill, and it's always confused me a bit.
It's a way less cool name. I don't like that fact, actually.
I've always wanted to have a big chill. Some people may argue that my life has just been one big chill.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
Welcome to Heat Death of the Universe. Today is December 4th, 2020. It is 12:05 p.m. Korean Standard Time. It is a Friday early afternoon, and I've been awake too long, but we must march forward. And we're back. What were you saying, Jason?
Strikes in India.
Yes, I was really impressed by this. I was struck. Haha. Struck, get it? I was struck just by the headline at first, of course, because it says over 250 million workers joined national strike in India. And having looked into like the history of worker strikes and general strikes and strikes of all kinds, this is probably the largest strike in world history.
It's big. That's like the population of America, right?
I mean,
well, America is 300 million.
320. So, but I mean, imagine that amount of people rising up in the U.S. I mean, it's not really comparable percentage-wise, but because India is like basically a billion, like right on the edge. A lot there, of people, right? But still, it's a very significant movement, and
aren't people arguing that America should also be a billion people?
Yeah, Matt Iglesias, who can fuck off and die.
What a fucking genius. Imagine if instead of us just like producing, an extra 700 million people, we just brought them all in, just like the biggest brain drain in history.
I mean, I think that's probably what he's arguing for in some ways.
Let's just have... I'm okay with it. So this worker strike, why are they striking?
Well, several reasons. It's mostly an agrarian thing, like farmers banding together. Why don't I just read a little from this article here? So, on industrialunion.org. So, this is a less sexy.
Is it industrial or? It doesn't matter.
I mean, that's the pun or whatever. But I don't know much about them, but they get a little more to the point about the strike. And then we've got another article by Jacobin that recently came out that talks about it a bit and gets into a little more like refined details.
Yeah.
But let's just look at the broad strokes first. So, this was on November 26th, so fairly recently. Despite repression, a joint general strike by workers and farmers has shut down India. Over 250 million workers took part in the 26th November strike. Indian trade unions condemn the arrests of workers and farmers leaders across the country as they demonstrate together in one of the biggest ever nationwide general strikes. So it's important to point out that the Indian government was preemptively, trying their damnedest to prevent this from happening by violently, beating people and throwing farmers in jail for like bogus reasons. Indian trade union leaders issued a clarion call to the government to repeal anti-worker labor codes and anti-farmer farm laws as massive mobilization of industrial and agricultural workers and farmers across the country disrupted normal life across the country in rural and urban areas. And that's the whole point of a general strike, right? Is to disrupt normal life. That's like, the initial goal, right? All over the country, both public and private sector employees participated in the strike. The united front of the over 250 farmers organizations, All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, or AICS. It's a hard acronym.
I was looking through the longer Jacobin article I just last night, and there's so many acronyms, which I feel like my head is still getting confused.
Yeah, I found one that's coming up in a second that I don't think they refer to what it really is, so I just don't know what it is. But I mean, they're all basically unions of some sort, or workers' collectives, whatever. So this organization extended support to the trade union strike, and the unions extended their support to the farmers. Chalo Delhi, it just means go to Delhi, mobilization. So the plan was to march upon the capital. And a lot of these people were doing this on they're walking there, basically.
Yeah.
And India's a pretty big country, folks. Farmers are protesting against recent anti-farmer laws, which would withdraw the government's minimum support price for farm products, with serious implications for farmers' income and livelihoods. So, yeah, this is, tale as old as time. I mean, this has already basically been done in the United States. Small farms basically don't exist. It's all big agro businesses, and they're trying to do the same thing in India. There was remember I talked about that documentary, I don't know, so many episodes back, whenever the corporation, they had the thing with Smedley Butler, and they also had the thing, I think you brought it up actually, where Monsanto created a seed that had a suicide gene genetically built into it.
Oh yeah, that's
so people couldn't
I want to say they're called Terminator seeds, but that might be the wrong.
They use the term suicide gene. I remember the activist who was talking about it. But yeah, it's just truly evil shit. And this was in India, coincidentally,
That's what my cousin
as well.
does.
What?
Oh, my cousin's a biologist for Monsanto. We're not really close. I just always think that's what my cousin does.
Makes suicide genes and seeds.
Yeah, Terminator seeds.
So poor people can't reuse the seeds of their own plants that they've grown. Yeah, it's just, I don't know how much lower you can get. I mean, there's always lower, but...
In March 1998, Delta and Lampine Company of Scott, Mississippi received the patent for the genetically engineered Terminator seed. This seed prohibits the natural evolution of the crops from occurring and instead stops the growth process of the seed's second generation before they can mature.
leading to the need to purchase more
More
seeds from Monsanto, coincidentally, or some subsidiary.
I mean, it's a pretty great business plan. Just imagine if things go real wrong, though, and plants only start producing Terminator seeds.
Yeah, that would all. I mean, well, they'd love that, I guess, because they can still just make these genetically modified seeds in the lab. It seems like
for a bit until they run out of the organic materials they need.
I guess you're right. Like but that would just mean the end of like that crop, right?
Hopefully, just that crop.
Well, right, but I'm saying like whatever seed. If they just started producing only suicide seeds, then you're right. Where would the scientists be getting their? They probably have a backup plan for that, though. I'm guessing where they're just like they're reproducing plants properly in one corner and just gathering those seeds to use to make the suicide seeds.
Yeah, there's
or the Terminator seeds.
Also, I mean, probably the hardest university class I took was like some fucking biology class that I struggled with. What I'm trying to say is I'm not great at how all this shit works anyways. Just the worry of making, taking nature and making it do things it's not supposed to do. You take it to a certain degree and it could get weird or bad.
I agree. I mean, there's also like an alarm. I don't want to get too off track from the article, but there's also, I think, a little bit of an alarmist level to that sometimes.
Yeah,
too.
I agree.
Like the very terms genetically modified doesn't necessarily denote evil.
And sometimes it means absolutely nothing. Actually, I think I'm saying all this shit just a minute ago, but I'm also going to say I usually think GMOs have been kind of a net good for the world, but that's a whole...
Well, yeah, I mean, like, all of the things that, like, say, like, your stereotypical, say, eco-conscious vegan in the United States who says, I only eat organic, all of those organic things were genetically modified. Like, the banana, that's one of the classic examples you see online.
Oh, yeah.
The bananas we eat now are, like, nothing like bananas were, like, 100 years ago, even. But anyway,
we're way off topic. This seems
we're still talking about agriculture, at least.
This seems like it could be a good episode for the future, though. I like GMOs and.
Oh yeah. I agree. Let's see, where was I? So basically, the government is just kind of trying to fuck over smaller farms by taking away these minimum support prices for farm products, which means that then, these like highest bidder giant companies can come in and take over everything. Trade union leaders expressed concerns that using COVID-19 as an excuse, the government has unleashed wide-scale repression. Police use violent means to attempt to stop hundreds of thousands of workers and farmers who are on their way to Delhi to demonstrate peacefully in the capital city on the 26th and 27th of November. Sanjay Vadhavkar. Sorry, these names are just hard for me to say. General Secretary of the SMEFI, which was never previously spelled out what that is, and I don't know, but it and Industrial Executive Committee member, so aka good guy who works for this union that is the website that we're reading right here. He said, despite the severe police actions across the country, workers enthusiastically participated in the strike. The recent labor law changes, including the new codes on Social Security, wages, and industrial relations, should be revoked as they fall short of protecting fundamental principles and rights at work. On many aspects, they go against India's commitments to the international human rights and labor rights forums. Mishandling of COVID-19 and anti-people economic policies, I like that term. It gets right to the point. Anti-people economic policies pushed millions into misery. This strike and the joint action with farmers will send a strong message to government demanding workers and people-oriented policies. Walter Sanchez, General Secretary of Industrial Global Union, said, "We condemn the violent means used to stop all the democratic expression of dissent. Industrial stands in solidarity with the Indian trade union movement and commends their effort in forming a broad-based alliance with farmers and agricultural workers against anti-people policies. Indian trade unions' demands are genuine, especially in today's situation with high unemployment and job losses, which have been exacerbated by the pandemic ravaging the world, and in particular India. The government should listen to the trade unions and hold genuine dialogue to resolve issues." That's the other thing to take note of. Like, India, I think, second to the United States as the most like net total of COVID infections.
I think I read that somewhere recently.
I'm not exactly sure what it is per capita. Apparently, so I saw somewhere someone said that, I guess per capita, the U.S. isn't the worst, but like when you look at the raw numbers, it's just like, yeah, but come on.
The U.S. is really bad.
It's really fucking bad. I mean, like I just told you before we hit record, I believe it was 280 now. The last time we recorded about this type of shit was maybe a week ago. And I think then it was like 180,000 infections in one day was the new high.
From what I understand, the U.S. has the largest percentage of people in the world that have been dropped from their health insurance since catching COVID, or since COVID decided to start hanging out on planet Earth.
Yeah, I saw that floating around from the Gravel Institute.
Mike seems like an okay dude.
It showed, it was one of those kind of lists that's like, yeah, number of people kicked off health insurance. U.S. is on, I don't even know what it was, something obscene,
Big
like 14 million people or something. And then there's a list of all these other like European and Asian and countries from around the world. Just 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
And the demands of these unions making.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
They're not even that like.
They're not radical at all, I don't think.
They're just pretty normal, like.
They're
things.
They're actually so meager, it almost kind of depressed me to read it in a weird way.
Oh, I was going to say, if you were still wondering what the SMEFI is, it's a shipbreaking union.
Okay.
Because I guess India has like the largest shipbreaking site in the world. It employs a lot of people.
Okay.
It's a really dangerous job. So, yeah, it's just a shipbreaking union. Anyway.
So, yeah, then we come in the article to, this list of demands. And here are their demands. Number 1, direct cash transfer of 7,500 rupees, which is $101 in American, to all families, people, okay? This is not individuals. To all families who earn less than the income tax threshold, which I basically means like the extremely impoverished.
Yeah.
Like impoverished to the point of like we don't have people. I mean, I guess we do in America. They're called homeless people by our standards. They're called our
prison population.
And the prison population, yeah.
I wonder if they'll get the vaccine.
Jesus. I can't even talk vaccine talk right now. I just saw more fucking disheartening news about it. Oh fuck! I am gonna talk about it now.
No.
Because, I'm just gonna say the Pfizer rep or whatever said basically like, no, we don't really even know if it works.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the one that's like more hopeful is actually the Oxford one.
Okay,
which I think there's two.
But that Pfizer one was like taking up all the news space because they were bragging about their big numbers and percentages.
Yeah. I think the Oxford one's the one that's actually going to get passed around and be used because it was looking like it's going to get passed really soon. And there's just more. It doesn't matter, but
yeah. Well, it doesn't matter, but let's try.
Yeah.
India.
Well,
I mean, it does matter. It matters a lot to India. That's for sure. They've got a huge issue with COVID as well. Second demand, 10 kilograms free rations per person every month to all in need. That's probably in like dollar terms, like next to nothing, I'm sure. Expansion of the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act to provide employment from the current 100 days to 200 days work in rural areas with enhanced wages. An extension of this program to urban areas. They're just asking to work more.
Yeah.
Like in the U.S., we're like,
need more money, man.
But I mean, in the U.S., we're screaming for our checks, which I believe we deserve because it's the only way to fight the virus. But like, these people are just like, let us work more, God damn it! Like, we'll risk it. I mean, so I don't know if I think that's a smart idea either, but okay, so that's their third demand. 4, withdrawal of all anti-worker labor code changes and anti-farmer laws. Okay, so it's pretty broad. Stop privatization of public sector corporations, including those in the finance sector. Stop the corporatization of government-run manufacturing and services entities in railways, ordnance manufacturing, ports, and similar areas.
Why would they not want these things to be ran by the private market? I mean, imagine how much more they could get out of like good private markets if they just let the government run this stuff. Won't it just all crumble and fall apart and be mismanaged by bureaucracy?
I mean, yes, Ayn Rand, yes.
I'm glad that you believed my convincing argument.
6, withdraw the draconian circular of forced...
Premature?
I know, but draconian circular...
circular of forced premature retirement of government and public sector. So this is like something that happens in Korea too. But it's like...
they force people to retire early?
Forcing people to retire at like 50 when they still have like 15 years of work left in them. And that's how like you go from like working at like maybe a decent government job to...
convenience store.
Yeah,
so we see all these old people.
You're working at the convenience store.
Stores.
You're picking up trash.
It fucking sucks. Last one: provide a pension to all, restore earlier pension scheme, and improve EPS 95. I don't know what that is. And then there's a ton of acronyms at the bottom of this, which are just showing all the different separate unions that are united behind this whole thing.
EPS 95 is the employment pension for India.
Okay. So pretty like modest demands, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, number 5, they'll just like stop privatizing all these major things. Like that one seems the least likely that they'll get done. But that's what's going on in India now. And
America is still the worst affected by coronavirus, by the way. India is number 2, but America's like...
in sheer numbers, I'm just not sure what it is per capita. I think because I saw someone trying to defend the U.S. as like, well, we're not as bad as per capita as, say India or wherever, or maybe even some smaller countries. But
well, these charts seem to say that we are
even per capita. Yeah, I mean that's what I thought. I was like, what are you talking about? That can't be right.
And these are from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and also from Air World Data. I don't know. I guess they're good sources. Oh, it doesn't matter though. Everywhere's fucked.
Yeah. So like another kind of general point of this episode is just to talk about general strikes and in general. And yeah, there's a kind of interesting history of them. Like, depressingly, a lot of them haven't been super effective, but that's why this what's going on in India is so, I think, important, because it's showing that like you can get a humongous number of people all to agree on something, and when we get to the Jacobin article, it goes into more detail about like when these protesters arrive in Delhi and how things go there. But yeah, I don't know if it's a sliver of hope in my mind, I guess. Like it's at least like, and like, you know, as soon as I say that, it's going to be like the next.
It's tough too because they're also organizing 250 million people or whatever, having these giant marches during a pandemic,
which is dangerous as hell.
But from like light reading, one of the things the Indian government used to like quell like smaller protests that was going on is when the pandemic started. They used it to actually as an excuse to start breaking up these protests.
I mean, but the thing is it's kind of a good excuse.
It is a good excuse. It is.
But that's the ultimate catch-22 of this fucking bind that the world is in right now. Is like, no, like this is the time to like do a general strike. But maybe there's a way to do it without having to physically cluster together.
I mean, people could do what I've been saying for years. Just stay home.
Well, that's what I'm saying, too, is like...
refuse to participate in anything.
Or do what they did in the 30s in the U.S. Go to your factory, but then sit on the ground and don't do shit.
Yeah.
Like, stand in your line, but then just sit on the ground and be like, I'll stand up and start doing my job when you meet these demands. Because that sends a kind of visual image as well, rather than the sick outs or whatever that, like, you know, teachers have been doing in the U.S. these days.
Some people would argue all that got us in Tennessee was right to work laws.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before. Explain right to work laws for those who might not understand.
As a person, you have a right to work, and
because it sounds good on the surface, doesn't it?
If you want to exercise that right, you go to your job and you do your job and you work. But if you go to your job and you're not working, your employer, your work master, should have the ability to give and take work away from you, and that should not be something that has any like. An employer should be able to fire you no matter what, because it's your right to work for them, and it's their right to decide if you work or not. There's no reasons that, you know, you should be protected.
Yeah. I mean, the law would bet, you know, it'd be more accurate to call it the right. You're not allowed to join a union or go on strike.
Or bitch.
Or, yeah, even complain.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucked.
That's actually, I mean, this is a whole nother thing, but so one of the big things that happened in Tennessee in the past, like, I want to say 10 years, it might be 5 years, is we got like one of the world's largest Volkswagen plants in Chattanooga, which was doing great and actually really helped the economy there. It gave a lot of people jobs. I didn't research the episode but I was just thinking of strikes. There was a big strike / they tried to start a union in this Volkswagen plant, which failed. Not because of Volkswagen, but because of their very, very red Republican government in Tennessee, who just decided to basically ban unions. And that's when Volkswagen came in, and their president was so upset about it that he's like, we can't like let a Volkswagen plant be in this state because we don't agree with your policy. So they moved the plant. They just like left Tennessee because they wanted to be in a place where there could be unions.
I mean, it's weird to say kudos to a gigantic car manufacturer, but I guess it's, I mean, good.
I'm probably missing some details there, but that's basically the general thing.
Yeah.
And it was like really annoying. Like,
so it just meant,
fuck?
yeah, that
like, what the fuck, Tennessee? Come on.
Your anti-union shit actually chased a factory away and jobs away. On general strikes, more generally, Jesus, I've said that twice now. I was looking just at this timeline, and yes, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. Full disclosure, it goes all the way back to 494 BC in ancient Rome. People went on a general strike about creating the oh fuck, I should have read this first. I assumed it was like the aqueducts or something, but now I'm not sure. And anyway, there were like this kind of this style of like amassing like labor together. It goes back like,
it was
kind of
about
further than you think.
The strikes in Rome. I did read this last night. It was about soldiers. It was about people that would go off and fight in like the legions, and when they came back, they weren't really protected by the empire. And like I guess the Romans were the first people to think, hey, maybe the people that are going off and like building their empire when they get back should have some type of protections.
So they were like the first bonus army guys.
So,
they were the first Smedley butlers.
They were the first Smedley butlers.
Yeah, I was starting to think about that as well. The bonus army camps. Like, imagine if they had 250 million people.
Been nuts. I mean, there weren't that many
like,
people then, but
yeah,
maybe there was.
But you know what I mean? Like that percentage of the country. Like that's what I'm trying to get at. Is that this number is just really? It's like.
Oh,
nobody can. I feel like you can't just say it's totally impossible. And yeah, maybe it would certainly be way harder to do that in the United States. And also, like we've said, there's this horrible dilemma of trying to contain the fucking virus.
I just want to.
So I don't know. I want to. I do support this strike, but I also worry that it's going to like really make COVID even worse than it, and it's already really bad in India.
What the? Sorry, my watch got caught on something. What do you do though? I mean, these people, their demands are so like light in the grand scheme of things.
Well, and it's a matter of life,
life or
death for at least a lot of them.
If they're already impoverished, already starving, like what?
So exactly.
What the fuck is getting COVID virus? If you're not eating, you're just like...
You're right. And that's the thing I thought of is like, that's what it would take is like the same kind of conditions in the U.S., which like, holy shit, man. It
might not be that far off.
I was just going to say it could not be that far off because to go off on a perennial rant on why did I almost call ourselves We Hate Movies? Heat Death of the Universe. We ain't getting checks, folks. And also, Biden's not doing a goddamn thing about the virus. The latest news out today was exactly what I said it was going to be a few weeks ago.
Keep the economy open.
Well, but they're floating this thing of it's even worse. It's actually even worse than what I predicted. And I didn't really. I don't think I predicted it. I just noticed the language of it. But when they said we're going to have a mask mandate, right? That was the starting point. Mask mandate. Okay, that's like on their official website. Then it drops a level down to, well, we're not going to do anything federally, of course, but we're going to ask gently to all the local governments to encourage people to wear masks. Like, at no point was the idea ever even floated of like fine people for not wearing masks. Like, don't allow people on public transport without masks. Like,
maybe they'll go as far as to get Tina Fey or Alec Baldwin or George Clooney on TV to make PSAs
about how masks are important. Yeah,
masks are cool.
But now
wear masks.
He and this will be, I think, a continuing theme throughout this fucking presidency. Now it's down to we're going to ask people nicely to wear masks for 100 days. Did you see that?
You know what they could do? They could send everyone. I mean, I would prefer they send everyone checks. Like, I would still like my stimulus check personally. But they could send everyone else checks. Maybe even before me. There's people who need them more than me. But they could also, if they're not fucking willing to send checks, why don't they just send everyone fucking masks? Just send people a shipment of masks. I don't imagine it's that expensive. In fact, I know it's not. Speaking of coronavirus stuff, my hometown of Johnson City, Tennessee, has reached morgue capacity. So they have made a
Bring out your dead.
They've made a deal to start using mobile morgues, which are basically just semi trucks, the beds of semi trucks. What are those called? The container, just with refrigeration units for the dead, just all over town. Fill up the dead.
I saw some like just nauseating footage of those mobile units outside of a prison the other day.
Oh no, prisons are,
and it was prisoners rolling out the bodies of other prisoners into these mobile morgues.
Yay.
Like, hey, that's going to rehabilitate them, all right. Like, geez, it's just very nightmarish, man. It's really horrific what's going on. And it's not just the U.S., of course, but I mean, that's the country we know, so that's what we're going to focus on. I mean, it's the country we know best. But,
and it's just like,
I mean, I know things are like the Modi government in India is like completely fucked up. That's the other thing about the strike in India is like these guys have been like fighting for like a good long while now, and it's finally built up to this mass agrarian like movement, this labor movement.
Yeah.
But there were like anyway. Where were we? Oh, we were talking about ancient Rome.
But I just wanted to add one more thing about ancient Rome. So what would happen with the Roman soldiers? Like many armies in the past, a lot of the people that joined the Roman legionnaires would be the poorer class, and they could often join to like, maybe move up through society through acts of heroism or something. But a lot of times when they would join, I think they would have to like take out loans and stuff for the equipment, maybe their like nice spear, their armor. And like they would get paid for being in the Legionnaires, but then their loans would add up. And when they came back, they would end up like not being able to pay off the loans, even though they had like served in the military. So these soldiers would end up being like made into slaves or, debt prisoners. Mm-hmm. And that's why I guess the more successful Legionnaires raised up in some of the first worker strikes, which are like, holy fuck, I fought with this guy. And now he's a fucking slave because of this rich noble guy.
It's got weird parallels to the military in the United States right now. Like we treat our soldiers like shit the moment they come home. Except for, you see those touching videos or whatever where they like see their dog or whatever.
Yeah, it's like,
but then after that, it's like you're on your fucking own, basically. Like
one of my best friends ended up injured in the Navy, and he's out in the Navy now, but he ended up not getting like I don't know exactly how it works, but he ended up not being covered through like his benefits because it wasn't during wartime, even though it was like it wasn't during a active war zone, even though it was like in an active combat sort of thing, but he was on the boat, so he wasn't technically in the war zone, and like basically out of technicalities because of his location he can't get the benefits for it. And
that's
it's just
so
like
fucked up.
It's like super fucked up. Or like I've also known people to get cheated out of their GI grants for just various nonsense reasons. Paperwork usually.
Yeah.
It's all gross.
It's very fucked up. And yet the most bloated, like overfunded part of the US government is doing that as well.
Yep.
Defense. There was fairly recently on May 1st there was an attempted general strike, basically called the essential workers strike. So some workers at Amazon, Instacart, Target, Walmart, and Whole Foods organized a nationwide strike over a lack of safety precautions, hazard pay, and benefits. And they did it on International Workers' Day, May 1st. And I couldn't find any numbers anywhere. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, but
Jeff Bezos had.
I think that very little came out of that, unfortunately.
I mean, before coronavirus was really ramping up, Amazon was getting into some shit for its worker treatment at factories, which I feel like's been dropped some, sadly.
Well, it's still getting shit about how they like. I mean, there was that whole issue of there's that one particular individual who ended up losing his job because he was trying to organize there, and they said, "Oh, we fired him because he didn't follow safety procedures."
Well, there was that. There was I think it's happened at 2 Amazon factories. I'll have to look this up. But people have literally died from overwork on the factory floors, and the management's like line is everyone just go back to work, ignore the dead body. Like there was one factory where it took them like 4 hours to actually get rid of the dead person that was on the factory line. While management's like, keep working.
Christ crutches. That's fucking insane.
And that's the modern world, guys. It's modern America.
So here's like, the sort of okay. Here's the depressing. Here were the results of that strike. Several high-profile politicians, including Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris, expressed solidarity with the workers. Oh, thanks for the tweet. You know, like. I like Bernie Sanders, but come on, I don't know. That's a whole other subject. And fuck you, Kamala Harris. Just a straight up fuck you.
Bernie's the best we'll never have.
Amazon spokesperson Av Zalmit said that despite these strikes, the company is still functioning and that business has not been impacted by the sick outs across the country.
Some people would say Amazon is thriving.
Yeah. Zalmit said on the sick outs, the fact is that today the overwhelming majority of our more than 840,000 employees around the world are at work as usual, continuing to support getting people in their communities the items they need during these challenging times. It's another way of saying they're dependent upon this job to live. It's not saying that they're like, I'm a happy worker, you know? Like, they're all like singing songs in the fucking warehouse. Like,
you mean it's not like working at GM or Kodak in the 1960s, 1970s when those were like awesome jobs?
Yeah, I believe it's not. What was the big thing? Like Bernie pressured Amazon to raise their minimum wage Yeah, and I think that was a small success. I think they got it to 15.
It still sucks though.
But you know what? It should be like 22 if like we followed inflation properly. Anyway. Amazon, 15 is better than $7.50. Yes,
Amazon should be paying more than minimum wage, and $22 is actually pretty low for what minimum wage should actually be.
And it's 15, and there's probably some weird shit where they said they did it, but they're really like getting around it on technicalities and stuff. That's totally speculation, but it's not unwarranted speculation.
Factory work used to offer real retirement plans and benefits, and they would even have like.
You could raise a
fucking game rooms and shit.
It was like the 1950s suburban ideal, right? You could just like buy a house outright, more or less, or at least like pay off your mortgage pretty quickly. Not buy a house outright. That's kind of insane. But like,
well, you could buy a house and you could pay for your house in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, really quickly,
comfortably,
and raise like 2.5 kids, whatever. And that's with a single individual having
and you would even
an
have
income.
Enough money left over to build a little bunker underneath your house.
Because the Ruskies were about to hit us any day now.
I mean,
simpler times. Perfectly wonderful times.
Now the only people that can build their bunkers are the Jeff Bezos of the world, which is what they're doing instead of, ending world hunger.
God. To go on slightly more, this asshole from Amazon also said the company has undertaken intense procedures to keep the workplaces sanitized. Specifically, he stated that Amazon expects to spend more than $800 million. What is $800 million to Jeff Bezos? Do you think? How much does he make a day?
I don't know. He has.
Can you look
he
it
has
up?
$1 trillion.
I'm saying that it's probably more or less pocket change, but they're going to spend $800 million in the first.
It is. It's nothing to him, by the way. I already can tell you that.
In the first half of the year on COVID-19 safety measures, such as company provided face masks, disinfectant wipes, and hand sanitizer.
As of right now, if you're curious, Jeff Bezos makes roughly $13.4 million an hour.
Good for him. He earned every last cent of that.
I mean, yeah, he works very hard. He is the first man to ever pull himself up by multiple bootstraps.
I was just about to make a bootstrap.
He's like a centipede.
He did like a Cirque du Soleil.
No, I'm sorry.
Like,
he's like a millipede.
backflip.
The guy wears 1,000 boots. 1,000 boots with 1,000 untied bootstraps. And with his 1,000 arms, he pulls himself up and up and up.
What a hero. True American hero.
The amazing thing about Jeff Bezos is that he stands atop all of his money, and it's just a constantly growing pile. One day, they say he'll reach another galaxy.
So Amazon just says they're going to throw money at like masks and disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer. Like, it's not nothing, but it's almost nothing. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like fucking service industry jobs giving their employees, their essential employees, fucking snacks.
Yeah.
Look, we have a free banana for you today. Thanks for coming in and risking your life.
I saw something so fucking gross today on Twitter that I'm not sure if it was real, but it was like
free postage to send your rip money.
Yeah, did you see that too?
I saw that, yeah.
And it wasn't even the landlord. It was like a company.
It was
like, here's this postmarked envelope.
It was the U.S. Post Office.
Oh, it was from the government. Jesus. And then inside it, like in the picture, it shows them unfolding the paper that came inside it. And it was like, you can get a Pepsi product for only $1 with this coupon. I wanted to blow my brains out when I saw that. That's why I was like, is this real? Please don't be real. God, fuck. This is America.
Well, the great thing about Pepsi is not only does it quench your thirst, it has enough calories to count as a meal.
Yeah, and then you can also get the Mountain Dew. There's a whole variety. Cherry Pepsi.
Soft drinks are part of a balanced diet where you don't have to eat anything.
Yeah, Pepsis and fucking suicide seeds. Just eat them. Target also reacted to the strike. They said throughout the pandemic, Target announced that it intends to spend at least $300 million on coronavirus-related expenses, including higher wages, hazard pay. See, this is better than Amazon, but where's the follow-through? This is their intention. Childcare, paid sick leave for older and immunocompromised workers. Anyway, not much came out of that one, is what I'm saying. But, I mean, there have been a lot of, like, smaller strikes throughout these COVID times. And, of course, I applaud them, but at the same time, I worry about how it's furthering the virus a little bit. Like, imagine, like, even just if every sanitation worker in New York City stopped working for like a week. I think that's happened in the past, actually. And when the trash starts piling up, man, that's when shit gets pretty fucking real for a lot of people, Yeah. It's like kind of hard to ignore. Because there was also like in New Orleans, they had a big sanitation strike this year, and I don't know exactly what it resulted in, but like, I'm trying to imagine like the power of like a truly massive, organized strike
among
yes.
the service industry,
and not just waving signs and where cops can just bust you down and like people will write you off as being a kook. But if you just say, I'm not working,
just everyone stay home.
Yeah, if you just stay home or, like I said, go to your work and make a point to sit on the ground, wear like 6 masks on your head and like, just sit there saying like,
I've been amazed for a very long time in my life that the system functions as well as it does, because sometimes I'm just surprised people do it. I'm often just amazed that people continue to do like shit day in and day out when they could just choose not to.
It's a mindset though. Like it doesn't occur to people that they can create, mass movements, and for good reason, because like you see when people try to start movements and they get squashed so quickly. But again, that's why I come, full circle to this thing in India where I see 250 million people all united in the same cause, and like it's inspiring.
It is inspiring, and I get. I mean, I'm being a little asinine. I get the fear of like not going to work.
Well, yeah, because like you said,
because my job's important to me, and and the fact that I like being employed. I like not wondering how I'm going to pay rent.
But the right to work stuff, it's like,
yeah, that shit was horrible.
I'm saying like that's in I don't know how many states in the U.S.
All of the South, basically all the ones who vote red, because for some reason they've been convinced that that's the good way to live.
Yeah.
Because one day they're going to be Jeff Bezos, and if they run a company, they also want the power to fire someone on the spot.
It just, that's one thing that sucks. Is another thing that sucks about the Democrats is that labor unions have been politicized to the extent of like, oh, that's for the Dems. Unions are for Democrats, and it's like not true. Like, but it's just like, that's what's seen on like the cultural surface of it all. And like, so yeah, like you said, all these like more red states, they're like, we don't need unions. Like, we just go to work, personal responsibility, and like, they're not thinking
if you lose your job, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have been working harder.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's all just fucking crazy. We don't really have time to get into this Jacobin article. I don't know if was there any parts of it you wanted to read though? Like,
no, we don't have to. I mean, it just hashes out the strike a little more. We can just suggest it, I think.
Yeah, we'll put it in the notes. There was just one like description of like the physical like march on Delhi that I maybe want to read, and then we can get out of here because got stuff to do. Okay. Even more this is like 1, 2, 3 paragraphs down.
Oh, got it.
They also say that it's probably the largest organized like strike of any kind in history. Even more importantly, the general strike converged with a march launched by a broad group of farmers' organizations, all planning to descend on the capital of Delhi. Social media was suddenly awash with images of farmers using tractors and trucks to break down the barriers erected by police to keep them out of the city. That's badass. In one video, a protester emphatically explained to a policeman at the barricades that, quote, "This is a revolution, sir," which is also the title of the article. I kind of liked that. The government, recognizing the determination of demonstrators, granted them permission to hold a protest in a far-off corner of Delhi. I don't know, I feel like things would have gone differently in the United States if people had, like, broken down barriers with tractors and stuff. I feel like some people would have been shot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, they said they could hold their demonstrations, but, like, far off from the city center. And so, although some farmers ended up at the official protest site, most rejected the offer and remained at the border, with some saying that they had brought enough food and provisions to stay for months. That's what reminded me of the bonus army thing. This was not merely a symbolic one-day affair. As of Tuesday, the central government has started meeting with farm union leaders, but protesters say that we'll keep camping at the border until their demands are met. It should say that they will keep. Sorry, Jacobin, you got a typo. yeah, that's all I guess I wanted to read about that. But yeah, I guess solidarity.
Strikes are good. Sometimes I wish my
put on your masks at least, guys.
I wish my visa didn't have a clause that we're not allowed to unionize or to organize, but
yeah, that is true of us.
I've never really tested that. Sometimes I feel like every job.
We're not allowed to like participate in any kind of political movement really at all.
Yeah, I know.
Like when they were all marching to boot out the president, Park Geun-hye, like I stood on the sidewalk and like kind of
I watched it for a bit.
Cheered
They're
along.
not supposed to do it.
But yeah, I didn't dare walk in it. I was afraid I might get arrested. But I was just like stood right on the side of it, just going like, I was kind of in awe of it really, but I think we're going to talk about that when we
yeah, we're doing a special episode, another special episode.
Yeah.
This is an air episode. We're going to be on Boomer Death Squad sometime next week, I guess.
Yeah, so look forward to that.
It should be good. I thought the one they did with us was good.
Yeah, it was fun. And I think the sound will be a little better next time around, so we'll see.
So you want to do some recommendations? I have at least one I want to recommend.
You got one right now?
Yeah, I got one right now.
Okay, because I got to think about mine for a second, but go ahead.
So I actually thought about this. One of my all-time favorite books that came out in 2009 is by Paolo Bacigalupi. I think it's Bacigalupi. If I'm saying his last name wrong, I'm sorry, internet people. It's called The Wind-Up Girl, and it won the Nebula Award in 2010, and it also won the Hugo Award, actually tied with The City in the City, which I haven't read. And it won some other awards. I don't know why I'm always talking about awards. It's a novel set in the 23rd century Thailand, and it's a biopunk novel, which is sort of like a steampunk novel, or sorry, more like a cyberpunk novel, but biopunk being more of like a post like global warming, post like Terminator Seeds sort of world, where in this book basically a lot of mega corporations had kind of destroyed like the plant lives by using gene hacked seeds, and by this point of the future, like organic food, or not organic food as in like food that you grow on Earth, not organic food like you buy at a fucking grocery store because it's labeled organic, but just like grown food has become so rare that I mean, people just can't grow their own food. The only people capable of growing food are like these mega corporations. So like poor people just like take food like super seriously in it, because like the only people that can eat are rich people.
I see.
And it's just like, it's an excellent book, and it's really like dark at times, but it just kind of looks like class and bioterrorism and like what would happen if you ended up in this world where like literally the only people that could get food were like the people that had like the means of production for food, and like just taking away the ability for people to do like farming, which is something humanity's had for years and years, and like they've completely privatized farming to a point to where like it just becomes a luxury instead of like a thing that humans can do. And I highly recommend the book. It's excellent.
Cool. Sorry.
My description wasn't perfect about the book, but yeah, the plot summary is basically that. A world where mega corporations control all the supply of food, and it's became near impossible for regular people to grow their own food.
I will also recommend a book called Super Flat Times. It's a book of short stories that are some of them are kind of like loosely interconnected. It's pretty like weird, like highfalutin weirdness, which is something I like. Kind of Ben Marcus. I believe this guy might have even studied under Ben Marcus. His name's Matthew Derby. I'll just read the official synopsis. Derby's unnerving, audaciously intelligent debut collection of satirical short stories is set in a future in which everything that could go wrong with current technologies does. The result is a brutal world in which language itself has suffered severe and systematic violence. Derby's characters can barely form or remember words, and the government controls what can and cannot be said. The era in question begins with the super-flat times in which mass executions are followed by the states taking control of human reproduction. A foolhardy experiment has created a battalion of, quote, hard, dark, permanent clouds that have made agriculture impossible. Hey, this is tying into the episode, kind of.
Well, this is sounding a lot like the book I recommended.
Actually, yeah. Except this book, like, as I'm reading this description now, I'm like, oh, that's what that was about. Because he writes in a really kind of like elliptical, strange way. That's almost kind of hard to tell what's going on, which I kind of like in a way sometimes. But and Derby's glum, meat-fed characters no longer know the, quote, joy of eating. In fact, there's no joy whatsoever. This is a very bleak book. Only a wan longing for the past. Think Orwell, Huxley, and Atwood, though Derby's bold cautionary tales are stylistically much stranger. More in the order of George Saunders, that's a bad comparison, and Tom Paine, don't know who that is, in their syntactical fracturing and intrinsic alienation. Even as they are unique in the searing intimacy of their grim prophecies, weird, edgy wit, and the morbid fascination they evoke. Yeah, it's a weirdo book. It's dystopian. I have a real running theme.
I mean, the wind up girl, the one I suggested, also very dystopian. Almost feel like I just talked about it like general ideal, but
I think a lot of the novels and collections I've read in the last like 10 years have been like fairly dystopian.
Yeah.
I wonder why. I was like, it's almost like it was leading up to something. All right, we got to get out of here, or I certainly have to get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Goodbye. Yeah, see you guys soonishly.
Yeah. Have fun.
And just because he's human, a man would like a little bite to eat. He wants no bull and a lot of talk that gives no bread and meat.
So left 2, 3, so left 2, 3, to the work that we must do. March on in the Workers' United Front, for you are a worker too. And just because he's human, he doesn't like a pistol to his head. He wants no servant under him and no boss overhead. So left 2, 3, so left 2, 3, to the work that we must do. March on in the Workers' United Front, for you are a worker too. And just because he's a worker, his job is all his own. The liberation of the working class is the job for the worker alone. So left 2, 3, so left 2, 3, to the work that we must do. March on in the Workers' United Front, for you are a worker too. For you are a worker too.
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?